Okay, so kita tamskat na antu timtik no akumagantik. Minaya no akumagan agang kiksipang ka paskungi tsega higuang minip na naskumak hustos pagan kita mo himiasik kap ngagis mo apahto asamina. Mina SICC utigapita tsigumaya kamamo pa yaman pikskun ka ipikskwatama. So I just want to thank everybody for us gathering like this again. Once again, it feels so good. And then also the elders for the prayer with the pipe. That's always really important. And then numusum panma now piasiwin igisiha, so that was his name. Piasiwi no agagiti. Then he was the one that always said when we're gonna get together like this, especially when we're together talking about language and culture, our ways of life, that we should use that pipe. Don't be scared of that pipe. And in fact, it's even on the logo for SICC. And I'm also thanking them for bringing this gathering. I always openly say, like, this is like full disclosure, my favorite gathering is the Language Keepers Conference. I just love coming to the language. And it's not just saying, I've always loved it, right? Because this is where I get my teaching material from. This is where, like, if I'm instructing or teaching or sharing anything about languages and culture, this is like the go-to place, because one, you get to engage with the youth. And then I saw one of them yesterday, and I'm cleaning up the snow that we picked up along from just up north getting here. And I'm standing back washing, and then all of a sudden I hear this Cree. I look over, I'm like, oh, that sounds good, right on, And then he walks by and he's like, I froze my car at the reserve, he says. I'm like, geez, I know, I hate when that happens, right? Because that always happens. But he said this in Cree. So that was really nice to converse, and it reminded me of another young man, and I got to spend probably like 3 months with this young guy, Cameron Adams, and he was such a little go-getter, and it reminded me of the youth, how hungry they really are for our languages, and that they're making it cool. And then when the youth see it as being cool, then they sort of inspire others. They're like, wow, that sounds so amazing that that young man is picking up, or that young lady is picking up a language, and then that they can converse with the elders, and then that transmission is happening, right? So that's what I saw yesterday. I'm like, oh man, that's so inspiring. So with the elders as well, because I didn't get here till probably like late afternoon, but I tried to utilize every single minute, so that there's either if I'm driving or if Jody's driving, then we're going back and forth. But like, it's so busy. Language is so busy right now. Culture is even getting busier and busier. And when we come down here, it's like meeting after meeting after meeting. And then if you go up north, it's the same thing, meeting after meeting after meeting. So which means there shouldn't be a day off, right? And I went to New Zealand, probably about 5 times we went to New Zealand. And when we were in New Zealand, they had these beautiful little babies. And I always talk about this because it's a model that I run on. We were going in, and we just finished touring an immersion school, and they have different immersion schools. If you can't get to New Zealand, go to the Navajo territories, because they have different models there too. And then in the 4 corners there, and there's like 300,000 Navajo. Holy man, of course they're gonna have different models, right? And there's so many different that you can pick and choose from those different models. So that's what I wanna talk about, what we saw, what we've done at home, and then what we're doing nationally, and then also working with sort of like different territories. Now, I also want to say, like, I'm very thankful that I'm a guest here, all right? That's the number one thing. I'm in a different territory. So I'm from Treaty 6, and then when I go into a different treaty territory, this is something that we have to teach our little ones, and it doesn't matter what grade they're in, all right? When I see a sign welcoming me to a different territory, it's touching because you see the language, and it's not somebody spray painting anything. These are nice signs. These are, you can see them. They're just beautiful, big signs. And I also thank the Office of the Treaty Commissioner for doing something like that. And again, it was my brother from New Zealand. I picked him up in Edmonton. And then I'm driving back with him, and he's like, bro, what territory are we in? And I'm like, Treaty 6, you better watch yourself. I said, yeah, and I'm driving. And then he's looking around, and then we're driving, and then of course, like Edmonton, if you've driven 16, it's real flat, eh? And he's like, I don't believe you. He says, trust me, it's Treaty 6. Don't, I'm driving. And then he looks around again, he's like, I don't believe you still, right? So that really stuck in my memory, it really stuck out for years and years, because it was true. I had nothing to prove to him, like at least one sign, right? One little, even just the smallest sign. I would have drove right up to it, right? And see, Treaty 6. But now, fast forward, what we're doing is like when I go to Uchap, when I go to these nations that have their names and in the language, if it's Sauro, Anishinaabe, Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, if it's in Cree, and I'm driving in, I know I'm in a different nation. And I know I better watch myself. Because what happens is, if I'm in there and I'm being an idiot, right, and I'm being disrespectful, I'm representing my family. I'm representing where I come from. I'm representing even a bigger territory, Treaty 6. So when I come to Treaty 4, I make sure I'm really respectful to all the towns, the cities, the lands, the rivers, the people, and the animals and everything else. And then I expect the same. When we have visitors, our trick is we don't want you to leave, actually. That's our Cree trick up there. And we don't even ask you if you're thirsty. We don't even ask you that. We're like, okay, right on, come in, yes, sit down. And then boom, boom, boom. We're like, holy man, what the heck's this guy feeding me for? How come he's drinking? That's our trick. We don't want you to leave, all right? So that's part of the culture, right? That's the part of the culture. So that even bothered me for the longest time, because I'm like, how come I saw both my parents, my mushum, my gugum, they did that. So I take it on, because it's just like you see them do it, then that's normal, right? You've normalized something. And then I started taking it into like the elders, the knowledge keepers, the ceremonies. And then here, we've always had this, we always have teachers, and I hate looking and talking about them as mythical figures, like stories that are like unbelievable. It's just like, that's impossible that Wisagitsak would ever do that, or Nanabu Ushu would ever do that, or, and yet, in the other ways of looking at things, the other holy Bibles that are out there, all of a sudden they're allowed to do things, but then now our relatives, which those are our relatives, they can't do that, right? But the more I looked into these stories, and the more that they're put in the way that they're put in, that's our curriculum that we follow. So to talk about, like, I like what Charlotte said, and I was listening in with Rose Lee. I was listening in on some of the elders, and I can't wait to hear what the youth are going to say, but also Tanya as well. What they had said, saying like, we don't have to ask, right? And then what we do is we mimic somebody in our curriculum that we're going through. And we mimic a guy, and his name is Wisagitsak, right? That's how we act. That's the curriculum that we follow. We follow that original, Wisagichak, and you have to listen to their stories over and over and over again to figure out, okay, if he fasted, well, guess what? We should fast. That's part of his curriculum. That's part of what he did. So we should be doing that in however we're going to do it, right? And right now, when I say that, what? You're going to starve the kids? You're going to make them suffer? They're not going to eat for the day? They're not going to, so all of a sudden you're thrown into wherever land is, But if you want knowledge, and you talk to any ceremonial lead, knowledge holder, language keeper, doesn't matter what nation, they do that fast, right? You go all over the entire world and you go to their priests, their leaders, their knowledge keepers. There's going to be a fast that's built in, right? So there's some, and it doesn't have to be like crazy days. It could be like a half a day, or it could be a full day maybe, or so, and then build it up like that. So that I'm thinking out of the box now, right? This is out of the box thinking, and we have to think like that. There's also a comment that was made. See, I told you, Rita, I don't even follow these PowerPoints. This morning, if you see me, I was like a uhu. I was just looking around. Okay, who's all here? Who's all here? Right? And then that's the way to do it, because sometimes there's messages in there for sure. There is. And then I use those as guides, reminders, but just feel the energy, and then feel what knowledge has been left here already, and then just go with that, right? It's just a natural way. So going back to this, when I saw what was being said yesterday, these four walls as well, it's really hard to teach our languages in these four walls. It's kind of like, it is artificial in a way, but you can do it. But it'll only take you a certain distance, all right? We do have to take them outside eventually. We do have to go introduce them to what water feels like, because some of them have never felt the lake. Some of them have never walked down to the river, okay? Here's an example. Piego Matayokan, okay? And I wanted to tell this, for some odd reason I wanted to tell this. So here's an example of one. And this has to do, okay? I'll use English, okay? I'll just translate it. And then you'll get the sort of like whatever teaching comes from it, all right? And then I'll dissect it a little bit, okay? So Wisagi Chagoa, he had a little boy, right? This guy had a little boy. And this little boy, that's probably Sagichak phoning. Watch, pick it up. But so his boy he was so proud. Just like, when you have your first child, you're so proud. As a dad, as a mom, you're like, oh man, this is the most beautifulest baby ever. I'll love this baby. How? And then you have dreams, and then you have you start daydreaming, right? Oh, we're gonna hunt, we're gonna go canoe, we're gonna go hike, we're gonna do all these beautiful things. And then you don't even think about the grandchildren at that time, because you're just daydreaming, right? So this is what he was doing. He's doing the natural thing that happens when we have this beautiful child. And then but he noticed something. This baby, wasn't moving, didn't move his arms. And for some reason, just I think that was the name, Kagagu. And then so he's looking, and then it bothered him right away. Because how sometimes when you reach out to a little child, the little child will reach back, or they'll at least follow you, and then they're kicking, So those little important steps, something was up. This little baby wasn't doing that, right? And then he was kind of bothered about this. He was thinking, man, what's wrong with my boy? He's not acting like other babies. So he went walking, and then he went to Sunishi by a river, right? And he went there, and then he was looking, and then Musquihtam, right? He was thinking about this, and he started crying. And then he went by the river, and the river was really clear. And then you guys ever do this? And if you don't, you're lying probably. You ever have a real good cry and then you go look at yourself in a mirror to see how you look when you're crying? So he does that, okay? It was a good, healthy cry. So he goes in the river, and then, there's a little mirror man, so he's looking at himself. And then he's looking, and he looks past his reflection, and he says, oh man, look at this. And then he picked up a red rock. And then he's looking around, and then he picked up another one, and he picked up like usawasni, kind of like an orange yellow rock. And then he was picking up all these different color rocks. They were just like popping out of this the reflection. So he's like, "Jeez, these are beautiful," and they were just nice, beautiful little, like almost like pebbles, right? So he grabbed all of them, all the different colors that he could find. So in a way, it got him off of, like, he was sad, right, a few minutes ago, and now he has something to show his boy. And he's really excited. He was really, it's like, oh, I got to show this to Ngush. So he goes back, and then now the little baby is awake, and he grabs these rocks, and then he's going like this to the first one he picked up, and then all of a sudden, guess what that baby did? That baby was looking at this color. And then he was going like this to this little baby, and this baby was like following, and then he threw it up, and then all of a sudden that rock, the first rock he tossed up, it popped like that, and it became a butterfly, and then the butterfly was starting to fly around, and then now that baby was like, whoa, this is amazing. So that was the first connection. With how the son or the kids will look at the dad as something so extraordinary, so magical, kind of like a magician, right? It was, and then that cheered up Wisagitsak immediately, because there was an immediate response, a beautiful response from his boy. So he grabs another rock, tosses it up, boom, pops. Again, different color butterfly pops. Right? And then these two are flying around, and then all of a sudden he grabs another one, boom, boom, and he's tossing them up, and then every little rock that was popping was becoming a butterfly. All of a sudden there was a whole bunch of butterflies, and they were landing on Wisagitag, and then he would move, and then they would fly, and then they would land on him again. And then guess what happened? This little boy reached up and was trying to grab those little butterflies. Right? And then eventually started rolling and was trying to get to these butterflies. Started crawling, and then eventually was chasing them. Couldn't stop this little boy, right? So that's a story of where butterflies come from. And that's a story of child rearing. That's a story of how you make connection and how beautiful our stories are. Doesn't matter how old you are, that's such a magical story, right? And that's not myth. For me, that's reality. And if I believe it, my kids are going to believe it. If I believe that happened, then what we're teaching there is what we need right now. It's what the world needs. We need problem solvers. We need people that'll say, that's possible. Do it. Do you want to be an accountant? Do you want to be an NHLer? Do you want to be a W or PWHLer? Right? The Professional Women's Hockey League. Do you want to be an artist? Do it. Right? There's enough stuff out there in our schools that are saying, like, assessments. I know somebody talked about assessments. There's a time and place for them. But when you're having somebody fail and then you put a real big fat F on there, already you've sort of doused that spirit. You've already kind of knocked them down a little bit. Whereas these type of stories, what they do is they make the impossible possible. So we need to focus on Atayukyun, these sacred stories of ours. And at a Language Keepers Conference in Saskatoon a few years ago, and there was one elder there that said she took it to, and this was a question from a group like this, okay? And then they are asking, what about Wisagitag? Shouldn't we not talk about these sacred stories in the summertime? So she heard that time and time again. All of us have heard that, right? So she took it to ceremony, took it to elders, her circle, and then in ceremony and in the elder circle, they decided use it or lose it, which means every little chance you get, you talk about our relatives. Every chance you get, let's talk about them and share. Because if we're keeping them like secret, and they're sacred, of course they're sacred, but like we need to share them because that's part of that identity that everyone's wanting. It's part, lots of that language is in there. And then I get to spend time at University of Blue Quills, and I'm glad that Jess is our president for here, and then also Tanya is going up there. But it's one of those places where you can actually do, like, it's so safe that like we're cutting up moose, we're singeing moose nose, we're ipansawya, like we're making gagiokwa, like we're making dry meat and like in front of like everybody. So I'll go there as guest instructor. I'm alumni there, but like we need that model in all of our schools. And we need to privilege, and I think actually, here we go. That kicked me into this one. Okay, make sure you're on me. All right, so I actually do have a slide for this, all right? All right, so when we do that, the second bullet here, okay? When we're taking these students out like that, when it's not in the classroom, and there's lots of things we can do in the classroom, okay? In the schools. We have beautiful places, but we haven't really 100% taken them over to say, these are our schools, okay? And I looked in this a little further. Did you know, okay? So I'm just gonna use that as my example, that second bullet. In Regina, in Saskatchewan, and I took this graduate course at the U of S, and it had to do with funding our current schools, okay? It was a funding question. But I was an administrator in a reserve, and then the prof, that was our prof, he was an accountant, and he worked for the government, the Ministry of Education. And then he was involved in the taxation. So he dealt with school boards, he dealt with the provincial schools, and taxation came up, all right? So I'm like, this has to be common knowledge, okay? If you leave here with anything, this will be it. I asked them, there's a formula, A plus B equals C. That's it. That's the formula that they follow. And then all the schools that are in Regina right now, if you're renting, let's say we're renting right here a room, there's a part of our tax. So all of you are taxpayers, by the way. You're paying some school here somewhere, all right? So if you're paying the rent fee, let's say $160, $170, $180 or whatever, that part of that fee that you paid is paying the land tax, okay? So the land tax, the property tax for this building. And then the property tax goes to the school board. So at tax time, they have this, like, tons of money, and then the school board has so much power because they get voted in. And then they come up with a mill rate. It's like a little percentage. And then times the people, times, you know, and so on. And then they're the ones that pay the energy, They pay the paper, they pay the Xeroxing machine, the electric bill. If there's busing, they pay for that. The salaries, everything dealing with the education. The resources. The secondary, like if you need a speech pathologist, if there's a language teacher there, that's who we're paying. So we've just paid somebody's salary. We've paid some of the schooling. So now my question is, if I'm paying that, there better be some Cree in there. There better be some Anishinaabe there. There better be some of our Lakota, Lakota curriculum. All right. So that's the way it is. So now I asked, okay, I'm glad that I know that, because I'm going to pull that out when I'm going to tell on you guys, right? And then I'm very supportive with SDF as well. But are they also representing us as Indigenous language advocates, teachers, elders, right? Are they listening to our concerns while they're, walking the lines? So I'm very supportive of them. But we need to find, hopefully somebody in here has a person that you can talk to and let them know, take these notes, and let them know that we sort of know what the breakdown is, okay? Now the reserve system, I asked him about the reserve system, and then it was like he didn't know. He wasn't involved with the reserve system. He doesn't know how the feds pay our tuition, okay? So I looked into that a little bit. And it's a federal responsibility. So INAC, under the Minister of Indian Affairs, they're the ones that look after our funding. So they look after the way or how much we should charge per student. Because I think depending on where you are, a student could be per person, it'll be like $6,500 per student. Maybe it's a little bit more, but it hasn't raised extremely, it's like we're still nickel and diming. We're still get little, so little, right? So we need to figure out a way to get that better and higher and more competitive. And then this is why, and this is kind of like the argument that happened too. And I'm glad that Tanya spent a little time on, guess what I saw over there? It was all non-locals. It was all people that are away, Munyao, I'll say, right? Or not from there. They were the ones I was teaching land-based. And I'm like, what the heck? There's something wrong with that equation, right? It should be our people teaching our people. And then we're starting to have a Dr. Jesse Sylvester. We're starting to have our own researchers. We're starting to have our own capacity being built. So we need to lean on these people that are leading in these places, because they got themselves there. That's what a lot of our families wanted way back when. Go to that institution so you could help us out. We're getting there now. We're slowly getting there. And then Bill Cook is going into, you're in a doctorate program, so you got a PhD student right there, right? And then Tanya is a doctoral student as well. Rosalie, you're in a PhD program, right? See, look at that capacity, right? That's amazing that we have that. So I think, and then I bet you in here, there's a lot of people with master's programs. I know Faith went to this awesome program in Harvard, and I was like, I couldn't wait for her to post another picture, because Harvard, we look at it so high, right, of an education. But then when somebody goes in an system like that, that looks like us, that talks like us, that is from here, we're proud, and we're like, wow, okay, if they can do that, maybe more people can do that, right? So we're doing that all over the place. So that's really good. Now, coming back to this now, okay? This land-based education, we're exposing them to the elements. I hate that word. Okay, I absolutely hate that word. Elements, all right? And it's so like white, we'll say. We don't like calling our relatives elements, by the way, okay? If you can even put it like that if you need to, because sometimes like people will, if they don't understand our worldview, and you're talking to the wind. Here's a question: which way is west from here? This way is west. This way is west. Behind me is west. Oh, where's our pipe carriers? Our Oskapiusak? Okay. All right. So I'm just getting over like kind of like the this winter freeze, and it really kind of knocked me back a little bit. So watch. This is all you have to do. Even in our way, this is all you have to do. So I'll go with the one that stood up and he said, "This way's west." All right. So all I do is turn to the west and I say, "How mushroom wichin kapik shkana notes." That's all I say. So in translation, "Oh, grandfather wind, help me to finish speaking today," right? And then that's it. And then if you translate that, and then like a person that doesn't know our worldview, and they're like, "What the hell did that man just call the wind his grandfather?" Right? It's so foreign. If I go this way, the opposite side, which side is this side? North. That's ways north now? So west is over here where the sun sets. So this way must be east. All right? And then what's so special about over there? Something happened really special this morning. So here's another thing too. And you'll notice, like, there's a lot of elders in here, and this is very classic your line, the elders. They say, "I don't know anything," they'll say, all right? Don't let that throw you off. That's what they're saying is in the academic field, what they're saying is, what I'm going to share today is not my knowledge, but it's ancestral knowledge. So they're referencing, saying, like, I'm not this smart, but this is how smart our relatives are from back there, what I'm going to share. Countless times I've seen elders come up, and then these are the ones that we go to, right? And they're not with us anymore. You bring this up, and they'll say, right? And that used to bug the heck out of me. And then until I figured it out, they're referencing ancestral knowledge, all right? So, okay, all right. I'll take coffee. That's the backup. I love the coffee, by the way. Yeah, it was worth the clap this morning. It was nice, and I like black coffee, and especially if it's strong like this. So this way, okay, where the sun comes up, get this one. This is awesome curriculum. It should be back to common knowledge, okay? I want to say common knowledge. Why? And then, okay, following, I don't know anything, they'll say, "How ibnanas kumuyan kawasamina kutakisa kawapahtoya imigusia." They'll say, "Oh, I'm thankful for another day that we're gifted another day." That took me the longest time to even I'm translating, and this is just their greeting, standard greeting, right? And then they're like, "Okay, we're gifted another day." What the heck does that mean? What does, I don't understand. And then we started studying these Atayohana, our sacred stories, and they're star stories. And the Dene have some beautiful star stories. Wilford Buck is doing star stories from all over the place, which is beautiful because we're starting to remember the skies, and we're sharing our astrologies, different astrologies. Okay, so going that sun in the morning, that's half of us, and we're half the sun and half the earth. That's why that sun is so special. We sagi tak. Nanabuju, Wainabuju, and a lot of these relatives of ours, you look back at them, and nobody's ever asked, well, who's his dad? Who's his mom? Right? We did that. We looked into it. And then turns out, boy, his dad's the sun, and his mom's Mother Earth. And then that's why we're so awesome, right? As indigenous people of these lands. And then you ever see those Italian movies where like, you know my family, you know who I'm related to, right? That's how these students should act. These are our own relatives. That's how you guys should all act. That's how we should all act, you know? And of course, we're kind of like, but you got to use humility, right? Right? But you have that relationship. You have that kinship. Waguhtun. That's waguhtun. That's how powerful that is. And then when they know where we're related, all of a sudden the treaty, like, as long as the sun shines, the grass grows, you know, Giam, you know who I'm related to, right? Who cares about that? Like, look at this kinship. So when we're talking about kinship, all of a sudden the son, that's why we address him as grandfather, because that Wisagitsak is our older brother, and then his dad is the grandfather, and that's why we address him as grandfather. Now we shift this way, and then the thunder beings. There's a chief thunder being over there, Ugumaupiso, and that one looks after. And when it comes in our area, and it's like the first thundering, all of a sudden somebody's like, "Oh, get to work there!" And I was like, "What the heck is this old lady talking about there?" Somebody's yelling, right? Get to work, and I'm like, "What?" And then another time. I know it was the very first thundering in our area. They said, like, make a smudge. And then I'm like, make a smudge. And then another time, like, sweet grass, where is it? Let's light it up. They're sounding right now. And then so I looked into this a little more. And then, you know, most of our languages, how do you ask how old you are? Building on the birthday song, all right? How do you ask how old you are in our languages? In our language, we ask, how many winters are you? Right? How many winters are you? Because making it through like minus 50 snotty freezing weather of our territories, it's a big deal. And I would brag how many winters I am too. And we still do. But it's in our language, right? So all of a sudden, these beautiful sounding, is like probably one of those winters where like, holy man, is this winter ever going to stop? And we have stories about that, okay? And then all of a sudden, thunder beings come, and then they make their noise, and they're like, oh, let's give thanks because we made it through a winter, right? That's a big thing. When you see pussy willows, when they bloom, kapisak pagak, that's a special time. And then pretty soon, if they bloom in your area, wait for those geese, wait for those summer birds, and they bring summer. It's a beautiful time. And that's why we need to utilize the summer times when we're teaching. Okay? So now the term for these elements in English, right? These are grandmothers and grandfathers. And there's a lot of them. I got to sit down with late Armin MacArthur, and then he had a medicine wheel that he lived right beside. We went out there, talked to him about it, and if you've never ever been there, go there. Visit those sacred spots. Instead of taking them to like a fair or whatever, you know, something like kind of like, that would be the place to go. Take them to these sacred spots. You have Cypress Hills. That's very sacred to all of us, right? Why would it be sacred? It's just so magical to be there in that area. But find out what our connections are. The valley, I went to LeBret, by the way. LeBret, the old residential school. Oh, man, I had a meeting with one of the past students that I was going to school there with. And she brought up something amazing. And she goes, do you know how many amazing people came out of that like programming towards the end? Like there's a lot of chiefs or past chiefs or leaders and so on in all of our communities that went through the tail end where sweats were introduced. They were starting to introduce a lot of our cultures. And so that's the tail end when Star Blanket took that over. And then I went to school in St. Mike's as well. because they were selling it as a sports college. And then there too, they were having pipe ceremonies, they were having sweats. And then I'll tell this, and this would be the place I could tell it, because you guys would be like, oh. So I was in the B dorm way up on top in St. Michael's, and then I'm looking, and it was 417, okay? And in the B dorm, we had bunk beds, right? And it was like common living area, and then you had the showers and so on. So I sit up for some odd reason. I look over, and guess what the heck I saw? I saw a ghost there. Holy smokes, my hair just stood up. I'm like, what the hell is that thing over there? And I'm panicking one side of and I'm kind of like, okay, either I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep after seeing this, because it was like a sheet, gray sheet, and then it was walking when I sat up. And because I had to sit up, because I'm like, what, is that really something that I'm seeing? It turned and looked right at me and sat through a bunk bed, like sat back, like looked at me, sat back like that, eh? And I'm like, holy smokes, what the heck did I just see, you know? And for the longest time, and I still remember the angle of that sheet. And then that morning, and then I woke up the guys right beside me, and I'm like, hey, come with me, let's go walk. I didn't do it alone, by the way. I'm not that brave, right? Because I just saw something, and it was weird. So I grabbed, there's three of us. I finally woke up, and I'm like, and we're walking real close towards where it sat down. And I'm like, grab that towel, because we used to hang the towels. And then the guy grabs it, and then there's a young guy. He didn't know what was happening. And then until we ripped open, his name was Luke, and then his eyes were like, what? He says, eh? Oh, nothing, that's all right. So we stayed up. We ended up staying up, right? The morning of, I asked the CCWs, the child care workers, and I'm like, hey, I think I saw something last night. Like, it was like weird, and that's where it happened. This is where I was. So I, told them what happened. The next afternoon, after school, we get up, and then guess what I smell on the third floor? Just real thick of sweetgrass smell, And it was like, I felt safe. It was safe right after that. It was nice. I could sleep. But for like a whole month, I kept on looking at that exact same time, like right to the minute. It was crazy because it internalized me. And I'm sitting up, I'm like, and then it would take me a little time to lay out again, but I was looking. And then fast forward now to now, okay? In the ceremonies, if you've been to a round dance, if you've been to a place called Kawashagamisimo or Kawihuki, a feast, guess what we do? We invite those there, right? We feast our relatives. And it's like, I was thinking there like Scooby-Doo style. I was like, oh man, if you see a ghost, you go the other way. But then here in our community, as I'm going through, if people can bring in ghosts, all of a sudden they're like the medicine people of the night lodge. They're the ones we go to, right? Because they can do that. Or we can talk to our relatives, we can heal, we can grieve. There's places for us to do that. We recognize them, and then they can bring us luck and stuff like that. It's beautiful that we have that connection. But that smudge that happened that day of, it really helped me, because all of a sudden it gave me an avenue of saying, okay, maybe our Indian ways aren't that bad. Maybe this is the way we should go. And that was the first time at the tail end when Beardies and Star Blanket ran programs like that. And I'm just throwing it out there, possibly, if we ran our own schools just like the way they were running them towards the end, maybe there's a chance for like language to not only go up, but even evolve, because there's so much technology, so many new words that we need to create, right? So I think I'll move up. How am I doing for time? Okay. All right. So this is the whole thing of privileging our knowledge. Okay? We have to privilege our relatives. We have to privilege our territories. We have to listen to them. And we kind of have to block off, and I'll say this openly, and even though I'm, I work for the University of Saskatchewan, and if I get in trouble for this, I get in trouble, whatever. But like, we have to block out what the Saskatchewan province is saying you have to teach this curriculum. And then my question is, wow, I'm a taxpayer, you guys are taxing me, and then I don't see any curriculum that's representing me. So I have a voice through that taxation, you know, because you work on the off reserve, all those taxes that we pay at the pump, groceries, renting, all those, you know, it has to go somewhere. So now we can start talking about taxes too. And I grew up remembering like our relatives, I'm going to call them, because they got to realize that. Kitsuamnook, right? From all over the place. They used to say, boy, those Indians, we're just paying everything with our taxes. We're just paying everything for, you know. Until I started teaching myself about it, I'm like, holy smokes, man. Like, what the heck are you talking about? You're paying all the taxes. And then we're getting crumbs at the reserve because I was an administrator there. I tried being a counselor one time, never again. Never again. Even chiefs, if there's any chiefs or counselors here, my hat to you. But holy smokes, you got lots of bosses in that position. It's tough, it's very tough. But we need to push that aside a little bit, and we need to really privilege. What did we do? Ask those questions. How did we behave? How did we act? What are these situations? And do scenarios. It's like a community building exercise, all right? And dispute resolutions. If we didn't agree on anything, what was done, right? And then that's privileging our ways. Because all of us come from, even some of the reserves down here, they're mixed, right? And then so now you have an evolution of like, I don't see that as an issue, but I see that as like, holy, now you have like multiple ways that you can do things. Multiple options to problem solve this, right? All right, so this is kind of like some of the pictures that we're doing. You can just Google this. And you can even use Google as an example. Let's say I'm going to ask you guys in Kagugliptinawao. There's a word, all right? And you don't believe me, Googliptamuk right now. All right? So you can find us online, and then reach out to us because we have really good staff. We've been doing this for 21 years now, and we're wanting to share. We're openly sharing. We've been working with the southern nations, and then they've come to us with protocol so that like there's no dollar bill that replaces that. When the chief and their council and their elders come up to saying like, we know what you're doing. We want to do that. So we're open to like moving all over. Okay. Immersion programming is the way. If you can develop your teachers, if you can develop confidence just to do it, do it. It's so much fun. If you don't have any funding, who cares? Just do it, right? It'll come. We launched ours in 2018, and we haven't looked back since. And you know, the local elections, like the band elections, for us it's like every second year, and then and here's what like I don't have to worry about this, so I can talk about this. But every second year when there's election, you don't know who's going to get in, so your job's like, holy smokes, am I going to be teaching here next year, right? You get worried like that. You honestly do. And then I got tired of that. So I'm like, let's move out of here. Like, this is so sickening. Like, it's not like, because it works. Immersion programming works. And, okay, does anybody in here want dumb kids? Hands up. Nobody, none of you? All right, one brave one. That's probably the backwards person right back there. That's the backward society right there. So, does anybody want their students or their children not to be good at math? Raise your hand. Do you want your children not to be good problem solvers? All right? All right, good. Go into immersion programming, because those kids, cognitively, they're learning in two languages, and it's really easy. This is how I explained it the easiest. If I'm working out one side, and I'm leaving my left side, I'm gonna be really strong one arm, but this one's gonna be really weak. So the same thing happens if you're doing English training and Nakota training. All of a sudden you're really strong, and you're both cognitively, physically, spiritually, you're strong. And that's what happens to these kids. They're very confident. And I always say this, our students, if they were here, they would be just scattered in here, and they would be just talking to you like little adults. They're so cute, they'll be like, oh, so what's going on here, and they're genuinely, me, when I was at that age, I was kind of like shy. I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody. Them, they're very outgoing. And then the one-on-one is very key too. And for immersion programming, for it to work, don't load up our schools. Don't throw like 30 kids into one teacher. That doesn't work. Now all of a sudden it's just risk management and crowd management, right? Don't do that to our language teachers, because they're overworked already, but make sure it's successful. So the less numbers per teacher or language speaker, and they don't have to be like B.Ed. They don't have to be M.Ed. On the language side, they're that anyways, right? If they're speaking, privilege them, and you recognize them and pay them as equal, right? So we just have to do that. Right now, like we're in that stage right now. We have to, and then I know I've done this. We don't have any money, and then that person doesn't have a B.Ed, but like this is like the best speaker in the community. It's like, you better pay her as the doctorate, like have the PhD level, right? We have to recognize like that. And then we've never let go of that. We've never let go of that. Our treaty, we've never let go of that. If you sign treaties, we never let go of that, saying that we're not going to pay you as that. And if and that person is the one that goes to the Sundance, the one that's leading the prayers, the one that's in that lead, recognize them, right? And they're the ones that are going to lead this for us, for success. There are some strategies in here, right, that I've written down, and some challenges, of course. But I'm going through some challenges. Hunting programs, trapping programs, taking them outside programs, hiking programs, skidoo programs. It doesn't have to be like there's like quad programs. So make sure that they're looked after and they're very safe. Snowshoeing programs. There's lots that we can do. There's some other things that I wrote up there. We covered a few of these things already. All right, and I'm just getting the wave here. I want to get to something very special here. So there's blue quills. That's what we're doing. So the realism of it, and how I assess people that are coming into the programs. Like we have busy hands, but also I want to myth bust here. I don't like it when people are saying all Indians are hand-on learners, hands-on learning. That's all Indians. That means all of us have been just painted with one brush, right? We're way more complicated than that. Some of us are athletic. Well, not me. Look at this. Not athletically, all right? But there's kinesthetic. There's learners like that. You ever have that student where you show them one song and all of a sudden, boom, they just pick it up? So music intelligence, all right? Math, they're like, oh, that's so natural. Math, anything with that kid. Math is their intelligence, right? there's spirituality. And all of us have this one person in our circle, okay? It doesn't matter if you're it. But let's say if I have an issue, and this is so important, okay? This is like, I love this. When I have worry, when I need a prayer, when I'm like, oh, I gotta go to somebody. I'll go to somebody, and it's no kumawa. I still have a grandmother, which I'm so happy that I still have a grandmother. I go to her, I'm like, okay, can you say a prayer for me? And then that's the one that's a gift. Spiritual leaders. Doesn't matter if you're the elder of the community, you're gonna have somebody that you can talk to, or you know, if you're a mom, if you're a teacher, you'll have somebody that's gifted, that's like spiritually so strong. All of us do. And if you don't hook up to that, like find out who it is, right? And keep that connection, get that spiritual power, like intelligence. This one right here, I saw so many people, you see the hand there that's bloody? I saw so many of our own getting grossed out about that, and like eyes like, what the heck? And like, I'm gonna faint. I've never seen this before. So already there's like a little disconnect there. Doesn't matter if they live in a city, if they live in a town, if they live in a foster home, we need to connect them with this. That connection with our animals and our fish and our medicines, right? The flyers, we need that connection. So we gotta somehow teach them that's natural. McDonald's is not natural, right? A&W is not natural. How we got served, even though like those sausages, boy, I was looking at them. They wanted to eat them, but they looked really amazing. That's not natural because we never saw the entire process. But we need to expose them to that, right? We need to desensitize them with that. So that's the power of it's realism. Land-based, you're gonna see everything. There's no like cutting, like, okay, there's the moose and then here's the burger, right? So no, you get the moose and you're gonna be involved all the way through. And you know what? If you're falling in love, if the first 2 ladies or 3 ladies or whoever talked about land-based programming, it's lots of physical work. It's so labor intensive, right? But have you ever, like if you want, and don't go this way, if you want to be an old woman or an old man, don't go land-based, all right? Because it's going to get you so strong and so tough, mentally, spiritually, your heart, your muscles, your feet, that aching back, it's all going to go away because it's so, like it gets you in shape. So if you want to be an old man, old woman, don't go this way. If you want land-based as part of your programming, then we're starting to listen to this old people. If you do good to them, they're going to bless you with this. Oh, go up, they'll say, you're going to have white hair. The first time I heard that, boy, I didn't like it, right? The next one, they said, oh, no sim, simin. Oh, you're going to have grandchildren. And I'm like, get out of here. I don't want grandchildren. Kugum. I don't even want a girlfriend. They're gross. And then the last one, I always tell this everywhere, every chance I get, because these are old blessings, by the way. You know, what the heck kind of blessings are these, Kugum? And last one was, she said, kuwiwaki gan. And I didn't know what that means. It means you're going to have a crooked back, right? That one, yes, crooked back. You're going to live to see that. And I was like so bothered with that. Like, what the heck are these old ladies? Are they crazy? Right? But what they want is they want us to have long lives, right? To see everything, to see great grandchildren. I was talking to my uncle the other day on my way up, and then he has a great grandchild. I'm like, holy smokes, man! I heard that was awesome. And then you could hear his voice like this. It was amazing, like through the phone. I could feel how like it was a reminder. And he's like, oh, yeah, I have a great grandchild. I'm like, holy smokes, yeah. You saw it. You're seeing it, you know? And that's supposed to be really amazing, by the way. Grandchild, if you have a grandchild, when you're being a realist, when I talked to the grandparents, they all said, like, I love my kids unconditionally, but holy smokes, do I love my great-grandchildren. And then my mom's here, Nigawis here, she spoils the heck out of all her grandchildren. I try to make them suffer a little bit, and then here she's feeding them whatever over here. And I'm like, you gotta exercise, you gotta do this. And then she's like, here you go. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? So that's what she does that, I'm telling on her. And all of us will do that. And if you're probably doing that if you're a grand. All right, so here's some objectives, all right? So in the end, we're gonna have to find places to develop. We have to use the entire year, especially when summer's around. And then our elders, when it's cold like this, when it's like, who the heck wants to be outside? I wanted to sleep in this morning because I've been so cold for like 1 week, minus 50, minus 40. So hard to, I gotta get up, right? So doing the whole year is important, all right? Oh, we're just about done? We are done? That's what that means? Okay, all right. All right, maybe I should have been looking this way. Okay, real quick here. Language teacher program. I want to recruit. First Nation University, I want to recruit for them as well. I want to recruit for any language programming that's happening online. This specific one, we're trying to get like language teachers to come up and take these 10 courses. And if you like what we heard about Blue Quills, go up there. But what we found was if you're an acting teacher already, right now, we'll teach you 7 courses over the weekend so you can continue to have your job, because it sucks being a university student again, because like it's like, oh, I can't afford that. I hated, like it was like money management, right? All over again, nickel and diming, everything. But like if you like your job, what we do is we teach you 7 classes per term, and that works because over the weekend, that Saturday, we teach you a methodology. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that regular week, you get to test that strategy out, that methodology out on your own classroom. That's why, and it's the easiest class I have ever, like easiest programming is language classes, because I don't have to sell that anything. Like we're giving up weekends. We're giving up time like after where we should be with family. We're giving up summers, we're giving up holidays for our languages. So when they show up in the school in these programs like this, any language programming, and then I know like the ones that teach, they're so easy to teach because they're all sold already. They know, they're there to do the work. So you just go along with them. It was so fun. That's the way to teach. That's how hungry everyone is about this, all right? So Rita LaPlante is here. And then if you want more information, I think there was like papers that were in there as well. You can contact us for that. So hopefully we're not interfering with First Nation University. That's not my intention, but I wanted to give an example. And lastly, last thing, okay, I'm sorry I went over. This one. These guys in Ottawa are studying us right now. They're having committees, standing committees. Last year alone, we went there 3 times. One on our Indigenous languages, one on the graduation rates of Indigenous people. What's going on? How come it's failing? How come we're dropping out, right? That type of question. And then the last one was pretty interesting too. It was on Indigenous science, all right? So they're studying us. So if they're studying us and putting resources in Ottawa, we better be doing 3 or 4 times the work studying ourselves, because they're going to come around and say they'll be the experts in no time, right? And they'll put us in our place, and we're like, like I don't know. So I'm telling you right now, that's what they're doing. They're studying, and they're bringing in experts from all over. And our experts they're not all going to fly them all over. We have our own experts in our communities. So engage them. Use SICC. They have recorders. They have people that are their staff. We need to utilize what the tools are. So now I'm in trouble because 2 of them are standing here. Look at this. Go live just in case they punch me out.
Masicho to Dr. Kevin Lewis. Really quick. Nanaskamon. I was at Camp Ganiasik too, and that is on Treaty 6 territory in Ministiquin area. And so it's all Nihilwak territory. But I remember I had to co-teach with Dr. Kevin when I was at UNBQ. And I remember I thought, gee whiz, what can I do? You know, I'm Dene, like I just feel like I was very, very much welcomed. But at that time there was a moose shot, Denia. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do a lesson here. So I remember cutting up a moose leg and getting the leg part. And so Kevin is busy doing other things, and he's my brother, by the way. And so I have the students there, and like you said, they come and go, and if they stay, they stay. I had the lesson going, and we cooked the moose bone. And so again, to eat on, our people never use plates like what Dr. Kevin was talking about. So we went and harvested willows with protocol, brought the willows, and the moose bone was cooked. So I cut the meat off that and in the lesson. And I remember I cracked the bone too and got the marrow, which is a yare to our people. And again, to take the moose bone out, we use the willows to take the marrow out. So that's just a quick, and that's how our people still live. It's not we used to. We still do that as the Dene people, and the far north can attest to that. So with that, I just want to say Marcy Cho to Dr. Kevin Lewis. And I could say more, but global news is out there, so Masi Cho. Masi Cho, Dr.
All right.